Welcome, I'm your host, Malcolm Gallagher. From our BizVision studios in the UK, you're watching the BVTV network. Now, I loved reading the many acclaims that my guest today has received about him and his book, such as from Tim Gannon, co-founder of the famous Outback Restaurants, who says about the book that my guest has written, wow, self-help and motivation for millennials, baby boomers, and everyone in between. Hey, that means I'm even included. Yes, I want to promise that every interview will be of value to every viewer and listener. But also I'd like to promise that every interview we do to be fun and enjoyable to view and watch. And I know that's certainly a promise I can keep today as I welcome successful marketer, multi-millionaire entrepreneur, and king of schmooze. Hello, Cody Lowry. Hello, Cody.
Hello, Malcolm. Thank you
Welcome.
very much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. Well, where's that picture behind you, Cody? Where
so that picture is Tampa Bay. I'm in Tampa, home of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I might remind you. And, if you haven't been to Tampa in a while, it's really grown up. It's got a big city feel. We got all the sports franchises, save basketball, and, the great restaurants and what have you. So I encourage the people viewing, if you want to come to Florida, make sure you put Tampa Bay on your list.
Yeah. When you let us back in, back into the US.
Absolutely.
We're still under quarantine, yeah. But you and I can obviously socially distance across the pond today. Cody, as I said in my opening piece, I loved reading the great things that people have said about you and your book, which is called Schmooze, What They Should Teach You at Harvard Business School. And I'm looking forward to, let's call it a schmoozy interview, if there is such a thing. Viewers and listeners, I'll be talking to Cody in 3 parts. In my first part, I want to ask him if people of all types can, in this altered world, gain the ability to confidently communicate and so achieve. In part 2, I'm asking him to show us how to build a real me brand and charisma. And in part 3, I'm asking him how to be a schmooze without being a schmuck. But first, Cody, can you briefly tell us who Cody Lowry is, what's your book about, and for many of us who don't truly know, me included, what's schmooze?
Well, yes, my name is Cody Lowry. I've spent my life in advertising and marketing, but more to the point, I have led an incredible, and I'm still living an incredible, eclectic life. I can tell you that, you've heard of the rags to riches story. Well, I've got a very unusual story because I was riches to rags. We went from, walking with the blue bloods in Detroit to moving 32 times in Fort Lauderdale. And everybody said, why'd you move so many times? Well, Malcolm, the truth is my dad thought it was cheaper than paying the rent. Yes. And I learned at a young age selling papers. I can, if I close my eyes and think about it, you might imagine the Artful Dodger, right? Because there I was selling papers at the Sunrise Shopping Center. Malcolm, would you buy a paper if I told you where you got your shoes, what state you were born in, how many birthdays you've had? For a nickel, you'd bite. You got your shoes on your feet. You were born in the state of infancy, and you've only had one birthday day you were born. So, at age 11, I started learning some life lessons, and I think it led to this book, Schmooze, What They Should Teach at Harvard Business School. I've redefined the word schmooze because, as you know, schmooze does take on a negative connotation, and we'll get into the schmuck business in just a minute. But I've redefined the word schmooze, and it's about a winning smile. It's about a great first impression. It's about being a contrarian in life. It's about building relationships. In the book, I talk about the secret sauce, Malcolm. Build the relationship, get the customer to trust you, and then never let them down. We have clients on the books for over 30 years, which is amazing. But I think the big takeaway for me in the book, and people say, well, it's very inspirational, it's humorous, and there's a lot of how-tos, but I think the big takeaway, and one of the things that I really want people to take away from the book is that it's about being kind to all regardless of class. And there's 2 or 3 stories in the books where I've had an opportunity to be in a situation where, I think it kind of changed me a little bit. And one of them really was back selling papers. So it's a great book. Alan Dershowitz endorsed it. Hal Steinbrenner with the New York Yankees endorsed it. It's getting great reviews. Unfortunately, it came out during COVID. So I'm charging right now and having a lot of fun.
Yeah, excellent. Well, Cody, let's schmooze along to part one of our chat. I firmly believe that in today's altered world, leaders especially need to become more visible and communicate more effectively, even more humanely. I think, though, that many are struggling to gain the confidence themselves to come out from behind the remoteness of their traditional office, hold meaningful conversations with teams, suppliers, and others, be compassionate, and balance all of that with effective communication. What's your thoughts here?
Well, I think they've got to be honest with themselves. They got to quit playing acting. In fact, I had a conversation not too long ago with a new president, and he's having a rough time. And I said, "You're playing the part of president. You're not being yourself." Yeah. And he got it right away. And I think, and I've been in the room with some pretty big heavyweights, and I've met a lot of CEOs, and I do think that if there is one takeaway, one common denominator, at least the one-on-one, they're pretty good at doing their homework. They're good at communicating, and I think again, my experience, they if they've reached that pinnacle, so to speak, they're pretty good at communicating. One of the things that I do have an aversion with is CEOs or people of authority who come into a room and they think they are, the all-knowing, the omnipotent one, and they have this this aura about them, or tone in what they're saying that puts everybody on guard, and they're scared to say anything. And Malcolm, I've always been a contrarian. I've been in rooms and everybody's going right, and I will take an immediate left, only because I feel like I'm right and that I'm doing, the people in that room a disservice. So, yeah, I think, when it comes to communicating better, I think that, again, they have to be honest with themselves, and back to my original, they can't play act. They gotta, be the real McCoy.
Yeah. But listen, though, you obviously are extremely confident, and looking at your past history and everything, you've done some very confident achievements there. Do you think confidence comes naturally, or can you grow it?
Yeah, but it's like anything else. You got to practice. I can tell you that, my confidence was instilled by a lot of things that happened in my life. I mean, when I kind of casually went over moving 32 times, we actually lived in two places twice. I can remember one time coming home from school, and, my little brother and I, we didn't live there anymore. I can remember St. Vincent de Paul. He was my favorite saint because I knew he would deliver food Christmas Day. And my mother, God bless her, because my father and mother had separated. They both got very good at drinking, and not pretty good. They got real good, right? And it was total chaos. But my mother, whose father was president of Wayne State University, he had a high school named after him in Detroit, and he had and she literally was raised with the Ford family and the Fisher Body family, and made her debutante. In fact, I called her the debutante mom. But I can remember in one of our houses, 1324 North Andrews Avenue, sitting there with her one evening as she was belting down her sixth martini, and she looked at me and she said, "Cody, you can be anything that you want to be." She said, "You've got blue blood running through your veins. You've got a scholarship at Wayne State," which was bull. But the point she was trying to instill in me and my siblings is that, as bad as things were, as bad as the times are now, we can hang around with the lawyers' kids. We can hang around with the doctors' kids, and we can make it. So I think that's where the genesis of my confidence began. And then I must tell you, there's a chapter in the book about mentoring. I had one of the best mentors ever. His name was Hugh Hoffman. He was about 6'6" and had his own accounting company, been married once for about 5 minutes, couldn't stand it. But he was a mentor to my little brother and myself. And when we first met him, he was always giving us advice. You know, Cody, when the maid comes over, I hide money in the seat. Tells me, one, if she's honest, two, if she cleaned there. Cody, you never lend money to a friend. It's the quickest way to lose one.
Yes.
You know, Cody,
real life lessons there, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. And so, I mean, he was, and I really want people to read this chapter. He was such a special, special guy. And he bought me my high school yearbook and my high school ring. And he was there for, you know, college. When I graduated from college, I didn't want a ring, a college ring, but he bought me a college ring and a yearbook. It was important to him. And just an incredible guy. I could tell you a real funny story if we've got time.
Yeah.
So one of his Hoffmanisms, as I called him, Malcolm, was, Cody, if somebody initiates the bet, don't take it. I thought about that. Well, about a year later, I was in his office. He used to get a Cadillac every year, and it was parked outside, you know. And he walks out of his main office, and he says, Cody, I got a bet for you. And he says, and 5 people have already lost today. I'll bet you can't find the horn on that Cadillac. And I'm remembering the advice he had given me a year prior. I immediately changed the subject, and he went off, talk about ADD. He went off and did whatever he was doing. And so I used the phone in his outer office, and I called the Cadillac dealership. It was Connor Brown Cadillac. And I got the salesman on the phone. I said, say, listen, I said, where's the phone, or where's the horn on the new Cadillac? And they said, well, all you do is squeeze the steering wheel. And I said, really? Okay. So out comes Hugh, as we used to call him. And I said, Hugh, what was the bet again? He says, yeah, now let me tell you something. I'll give you 1 minute, and 5 people have already lost. I bet you $1 you can't find the horn on my new Cadillac. I said, I'm in. Oh, he was excited because he had another pigeon, right? So we go outside, and the window's down, and I'm holding the steering wheel like this, and I'm looking up at him, and he thinks it's a shuttle launcher. Okay, don't go until I tell you now. 1, 2, 3, go. Oh, he goes, son of a, and but what a lovely guy. And you say, where did I get my confidence? This guy, he did things differently. He talk about a contrarian. I mean, one of the stories I just was about to spit out. I don't even know if I can tell it, but no, he was just an incredible guy. And I give him a lot of credit for not just me, but my brother's taken on a lot of his, his attitude and learned from his life lessons. And,
lovely story, Cody. Lovely story.
Yeah.
Cody, before we move to part 2, let me just remind everyone of your website URL, which is all the W's, Mr. M.R. Schmooze. And you spell that SCHMOOZE.com. Let me say that again. Viewers, obviously, you can see it on the screen behind me. For listeners, it's Mr. Schmooze, SCHMOOZE.com. Now, let me remind you about Cody's book, which is called Schmooze, What They Should Teach You at Harvard Business School. And it's published by Savio Republic. Right, Cody, to part 2, and something I think that really comes back almost to your contrarian thinking here, but something that I think is really important that today's leaders, especially in sales, marketing, business, need to get their head around. I totally believe that corporate cloning should be banned, and that people give their best when they are allowed to express themselves as they are, their personality themselves. This means, though, ensuring that you build the brand and the charisma that's the real you, doesn't it? How can that be done? And what mistakes are often made?
Yeah, well, again, Malcolm, you got to be honest with yourself. And I just did a interview at a Dallas TV station, and I was talking to the millennials and the younger generation, and we touched on brand and how important it is to understand that each of us has our own brand, and our brand isn't what we say it is. It's what other people say it is, and when you're building your own brand, just like Coca-Cola, you have to be true to, what's important at the time. Obviously Coca-Cola, it's marketing trends and what have you. In real life, it's what's going on in your business world and your, in your personal world. And then being able to, charge honestly and authentically and genuinely.
This personal brand. I mean, how does it translate? I personally feel, you can see I've got my tie and waistcoat on, and that's my brand. Getting dressed. When I was presenting in America, the Americans may come into a conference with their shorts and everything, but I was always have my blue suit on because that was my uniform. But that to me gave me my brand.
Yeah. And I think my brand has certainly been that. I will tell you, it's getting a lot more casual on this side of the pond. I mean, I never, ever would, be interviewed like this 5 years ago without a tie on. But, I'm feeling comfortable. Botany Suits actually, years ago, they said you never get a second chance to make a first impression. And I think that's very important, again, for the millennials or people that are, on the Zoom calls. They think, well, I don't really have to look good. And yeah, you do. You have to, make a great first impression. So, that's been important to me. The follow-up question?
Yeah, I just wanted to know, though, when people are looking at the charisma of somebody, nobody can have a perfect charisma. You've got to have, everybody's got faults, haven't they?
Yep.
Should you let your faults be seen?
Yeah, I think so. Again, it's all, yeah. And my brand, really, I was born with a lampshade on my head. So there's no telling what I'm going to do at any given meeting. Right. I was at a party, a birthday party with 4 cakes, if you can believe that, over the weekend. And I don't know, I got into my, Jerry, lady, I was doing Jerry Lewis for a long time, Yeah. And so, mine has always been humor, and it helps to diffuse situations and what have you. But, and sometimes my humor has gotten me into trouble if I've crossed the line, and it's not that I've resorted to vulgarity or anything like that, but sometimes I'll make a remark and people won't get it. And, so yeah, I think to answer your question, yeah, I think you can step in your own brand at times, and it's not so good smelling.
Yeah, I've got you now. Yeah. Cody, part 3. Not everyone has your confidence and your charisma, or they ever will. I worry that many will step over the red line from being schmooze to being a schmuck. And that's when they'll lose their integrity and authenticity. So how can we all achieve what you suggest without crossing that imaginary red line?
Yeah. So just so we understand what schmooze is, it's a Yiddish word. And it means to chat idly in a friendly, persuasive manner so as to gain favor in connections or business. And in the book, Schmooze, What They Should Teach at Harvard Business School, I've redefined the word. And, it's all the things that we've been talking. Actually, there's 25 different attributes. But I think it's about, just to sum it up, it's about going through life with a great bedside manner. And with that said, I've included a lot of things in the book that I think, are great takeaways. My book isn't regurgitated internet stuff, right? This is real life lessons from real life experiences from somebody who's walked the walk.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah. I knew as soon as I got the opportunity to interview Cody Lowry that he had a message so relevant for today's leaders, especially as we motivate ourselves and inspire others into not just recovery, but acceleration. I suggest Cody has delivered exactly that, what we all want. And so can I say, Cody Lowry, thanks for a great interview.
Well, thank you for having me. And just a little bit of advice to your viewers and listeners out there. May the schmooze be with you.